Hi, welcome to Making It Artisan Stories. We're here today with Jen Horn and her One-Time Designs creations. These are just a couple of examples of some of the beautiful works that you
At
do.
the end of 2020 as a kind of a COVID hobby, and it just started with some basic woodworking and it's advanced from there. I really love the look of resin and I've always loved it and I've always wanted to learn how to do it. So once I started learning how to use power tools and do basic woodworking, I decided to try adding this to it too. The flowy art of resin appealed to me because, you don't have to be able to like draw or paint necessarily to be able to do it.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the process goes and what materials that you use?
We use mostly hardwoods because they're durable and they last a long time. They won't, crack and bend as easily as some of the softer woods do. This board here and this board are both teak wood, really pretty, tropical wood, very durable. Some of the boards we cut ourselves, such as this one here.
That's gorgeous with the whale tail. I
yeah.
really love that one.
We have a CNC machine that Andy uses to cut out shapes, and that's how we did that board. We have our river boards back there, which require a little bit more time.
Now, this is all food safe quality, right?
Yes, we use food safe resin. We also use food safe oils for the boards. Materials are not cheap. The last time I bought it, a 2-gallon kit was about $100.
What are some of the different kinds of objects that you've been creating for people?
I've made a custom boot rack and a
That's unique.
coat rack and side table to go with it. I've made several custom coat racks, ocean ones, river ones. I've made a few clocks and some key racks. We have our round boards here that I can put Lazy Susan hardware on the back of and make Lazy Susans with them. But we've also had plenty of people reach out to us wanting something specific, like somebody wanted a board with butterflies on it, so we did a board with butterflies on it, and pretty much any image you can think up,
Yeah.
we can do it.
Oh, well, that sounds like it's basically unlimited.
So I've done a board with some swimming turtles and some swimming stingrays in them too, and those people like those too.
Yeah, that sounds like they go fantastically at a craft fair on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
Have you done craft fairs?
I have not. However, we do have one coming up on December 3rd, the PTO craft fair at Highland School.
Here in Wallingford.
Yep, that's going to be our first one.
Thanks for joining us here at Making It Artisan Stories. Welcome to Making It Artisan Stories with Bert Piedmont, an author and creator of various cards and items of semi-occult nature.
About 10, 15 years ago, I started creating of objects and working at some New Age fairs, the Astrological Society of Connecticut New Age Fair. My friend Carol and I wrote this book called Ayersford, and we had a lot of fun doing it, and that kind of got me into, well, I want to do my own thing. I don't want to work on Carol's vision. I want to work on Bert's vision. And I decided to get my master's degree, which I did, and that's where the stories in the MAW came from, all the different classes that I took that were in kind of, pushing your literary boundaries and pushing your imagination and doing things in a different way. And I just started to see that there was this theme to where my imagination went, just these certain little bits that it came back to. And when I was done, I called up my friend and I said, I think we could make a little book out of this. And we did, and that's it. And people who read it seem to really like it.
I read it last night and this morning, and I was enthralled. I was so impressed with this book. I immediately wanted to read more of what you had written. It was subtly humorous, but it was also deep, and it was thought-provoking, and It was transportive. It was the world that you created in that book is fascinating, and it really draws you in and really makes you want to read more of what it comes together as something that you could see all these other possibilities opening up of where the story could go. And so you took the story other places here?
This is like Stephen King and his Dark Tower. This is like my Dark Tower. I mean, after I finished this, and I said, well, that's it. Everything's going to be related to this. I went back and I looked at Ayersford. Ayersford had a lizard in it, and he was the first time traveling lizard. How else could he have gone everywhere in the book and known what everybody was thinking if he wasn't a time-traveling lizard? Wherever that came from, it's been happening for a really long time. In the Mickey Crow series, it's a lot more subtle, but it's still the same world, formless. The Shigatli is the Chomping Chinampa from here. I never say Chomping Chinampa, but if you've read the Maw and you read Formless, you're going to recognize it and be like, here's this amorphous, shape-shifting thing that eats people, and it appears again in my book that's about to come out in February, which is called Fat Monster. In this case, it's slightly different in that it's now a fungus. Mm-hmm. It's part mushroom, but it's still
the thread that goes through the different books.
Yeah.
And connects them.
And that's cosmic horror, and also about how badly fat women are treated by society. So the Fat Monster has a kind of dual meaning as being the monster itself, and also how people look at the main character, who's an overweight woman.
It's really fascinating, the creatures that you've summoned up with your imagination. Can you tell us about some of these creatures and where you might have got inspiration for them?
The Shoggoth I didn't invent. The Shoggoth came from H.P. Lovecraft, but I put my own take on it, which is why I've now shifted it into putting an Aztec spin on it and calling it a Shigatli. I've taken it and made it into my own. I've made it smaller. I've made it more intelligent. I've made it more flexible where it can become anything, whereas the Shoggoth was kind of protoplasmic, but it wasn't something that could truly shapeshift into anything, whereas my Shigatli can't. So I do kind of riff on things that exist. Formless, obviously, is a mermaid, but I took the idea of a mermaid and I said, what if instead of being half a fish, what if it was half a shark? What would that mermaid be if it had like those shark instincts? So I kind of took that idea and kind of turned it on its head. I think people tend to think like, oh, mermaids are like sweet and good, and these mermaids, they have big nasty shark teeth and the black eyes, and from here down they're shark, and I gave them kind of their own biology where they can mate with humans or mate with sharks, and I made it really complex.
Hi, welcome. Today we're interviewing Shirley Lagerstrom on her oil painting and also some of her earlier salt dough creations. Shirley, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I was born in Wallingford, lived here all my life. My father had a dairy farm until he was 60 years old. I took part in getting hay and raking hay and having a fine time in the outside, but I also liked to play with crafts, and that's how I got here today, because you're interviewing me about crafts.
And your art.
And painting.
That painting behind you, does that happen to be your father, the farmer?
Oh, it does happen to be that. That's Bob Self on Fieldstone Farm, and that's his dog Spike. And he followed him everywhere he went, especially when he cultivated, because there's a slow pace, and he would go all the way to the end of the field following my father, and then turn around and come all the way back. And he would do that for about half an hour, and then he would give up and go home. But I got a picture, and there it is for all times.
It's a beautiful picture.
Thank you.
How and when did you start doing the painting? I know you started doing the crafts with the salt dough first.
In the mid-'80s, my friend Jane Reed and I had a scout troop, and we one time decided before Christmas we would make some little teddy bear ornaments out of salt dough. And we actually used a cutter to do them, and we were unhappy with that, and I knew I could do better on my own. So we started making them in different teddy bear things, a teddy bear on a candy cane, and a teddy bear riding a hobby horse, and even a rocking horse. And we really thought they were kind of cute. And I would make them, and we both would paint them. So we decided to do shows, and we did shows for probably 4 or 5 years. And we had close to 60 designs that we made. And
did they sell well?
they sold very well. But we got tired of doing it. And I would have to, after they were painted, I had to dip them twice in urethane. And they were strung across my kitchen from one cabinet above my refrigerator all the way over across the other side of the room would be all of these little ornaments hanging there. And I kind of got tired of having that mess. And one time my father came in before they were painted. There was a bunch of them on the table. And he picked one up and ate it. And my daughter, Laurel, had to clue him in why they tasted terrible. He was eating my ornament.
Well, they're just made from, what were they made from?
Flour and salt and water.
So that would be a very affordable craft to get into. It's also a very old craft.
It certainly is. And especially for Scout girls, troops, and things like that, that is a very easy way to make Christmas ornaments.
That is very true.
Now we meet at my house, and there's 10 of us. One of our gals is 91, and our youngest is just turned 70. So we call ourselves girls, but we're really old ladies.
You're girls forever. It's all about what's on the inside.
Inside, you're girl forever.
Did you take any classes for this?
No, just informally with Fran. It wasn't really a class. It was just a gathering of painters, and that's what we do now at my house. We each offer opinions on what's going on and how something could be improved or left out or added, but there's no instruction, just a group of us painting together.
What's the hardest part of oil painting?
The mess. That's one of the reasons why they like to come to my house, is because I have what was a sunroom, which I can close off, and we keep all of the stuff out there. There's turpentine and all the different tubes of paint and the brushes and the easels all set up, and we just leave them there and close the door. And
because you should always ventilate when you use the solvents to clean up from the oil painting.
It pays off to do that, but in the winter we are closed off. So